has a family community engagement resource teacher that has supported the distribution and the collection of the survey, as well as offered throughout the 2-month window for the parent survey multiple supports for our school administrators and yes, the parent surveys went out as a hard copy to ensure that there was equity in all school communities having access to the parent survey. It went out in 26 different languages, although that does not represent all of our school communities. We did leverage community partners to help with the translation for those few languages that we're not able to support with. And on an ongoing basis, our team deployed out into school sites to not only pick up the parent surveys because they were distributed as almost as if they were testing materials, so secured documentations to ensure that there was monitoring of the survey at all times. Also pushed out supports through parental engagement events or activities that allowed parents to also complete the parent survey, which in turn will give us feedback around what the parents believe are the strengths of the school and the areas for growth, which will help us support the increased involvement of parents moving forward as a data point for the work we lead.
And the team that leads the survey for the LCAP has already decided that they're going to be working with FACE next year so that we can expand that type of
I
involvement.
was just about to say that.
What?
Yes,
And then it was a member of the community had kind of wondered if those, tens of thousands of surveys, did they come in from across the board, or how representative is it of the different clusters?
There's a total of just over 32,000 surveys collected. We do have a breakdown by cluster and by area. The goal was that each school site would hit a minimum of 25%. That was the goal. In some instances, some schools did, and in others, they did not. I don't have that data in front of me now to be able to share with you, but yes, we do have the breakdown. And have also.
But there was a concerted effort to have the survey results be proportional.
Yes. So as a first-year launch, I don't have that information.
But there was a concerted effort to make sure that all the different communities had the surveys pushed out and that responses were received.
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
So
you.
all communities received support for that.
Just a couple of other questions. You, in essence, have moved from 11 to 4. Maybe everybody, hopefully everybody understands why you did that in terms of the pathways. And then back over here, Rosa Parks was an example of volunteer data point. They had 3,200 or 3,700, 3,000 plus volunteers. Are we collecting those kind of data at all sites so that we know what's going on in terms of our volunteers? And then the home visits with the SDEA and getting out to sites, how's that working? I mean, our teachers or folks getting out to do that? And then the comment about the students being translators, I'm sure that's something that we're looking into.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Dr. Evans? Oh.
Well, 2 years ago, I presented 11 concepts to action in terms of strategies for getting our students back, and 4 of them we talked about here. And there were 7 others, and I can think and list them all, but I'd be happy to share that with you.
I know about them, but I mean, it's hopefully some of that's based upon the ones that were most popular. I mean, you chose those.
We have done work in all 11 of those, and they're like moving constantly and overlapping with each other. So the enrollment center was one. There were others I can't think of just right at the moment, but if anybody can help me out, that'd be great.
Well, part of the concepts to action was to identify the pathways. So that was one of the concepts, and that's what she was speaking about in this presentation.
Yeah, looking at the dual language immersion programs, the magnet programs, the choice office. We have a lot, the optional areas, we have a lot of things in place in this district that have been in place for 30, 40, 50 years that we need to be a little smarter and sort of get with the 21st century in terms of being able to compete right now. 20 years ago, there were no charter schools, and now we have to figure out how we're going to share all the quality that we have.
Dr. Evans?
Okay. Well, last year we asked the staff to pay more attention to community and parent involvement. We had the Ballard Center, which was doing a lot of good work, but the effect across the entire district, the number of people who were from throughout this huge district were actually going to come to a parent education program or something like that at this one center was very limited. And what we said at that point was we wanted, yes, more parent involvement, but more of a sense of ownership, and not just by the most active people in the community, but all the parents participating more in the education of their children, not just showing up for a little event at the school and some sort of token involvement. And so I appreciate what's being done in terms of the capacity building, as far as the pilot projects with the home visits and other training for principals in terms of reaching out to the communities. One of the things about the different communities, obviously the needs of the different communities are so different, and I don't think there's any cluster, obviously, that doesn't need a lot more community and parent involvement to succeed, but it has to be adjusted to each community. And I know when we talk about reaching out to the community, communities are not a monolithic voice either, because sometimes people say, well, the community wants this, or the community wants that, but one part of the community wants this, one part of the community wants that, and the district has to listen to all portions of the community. I thought a good example that was brought up by one speaker was about Gary Patel going out to community meetings and talking with the issues about food services and what could and couldn't be done, and having that kind of a dialogue. I think also in terms of looking at how to do the parent engagement, the idea of having some parents sit down with staff, I'm sure that's happened to some extent, and just really, really kind of brainstorming about all of this. And one of the things that we haven't talked about a lot, and Dr. Whiters-Pay and I have talked about it some, but is in terms of the whole volunteering issue, and not just volunteering in terms we've come in and we've signed into the school and put in a certain number of hours and so forth, but really meaningful participation in volunteering. And one of the things that maybe in the future I would like to see in the district is people obviously want to volunteer at their child's school and help out and so forth, and there are some schools that are almost inundated with everybody wants to be the room parent or whatever, and there's even a competition there. But there are a lot of schools where there isn't quite that level of involvement, and there are kids who are being left out. And I think it would be great to have a sort of a district-wide volunteer pool that would actually be able to choose another pilot program maybe, to choose a few select schools and say, we can make a real impact in terms of what's going on, and whether it's literacy or music or whatever it is, but real meaningful participation. So we can talk about that a little bit more. On the STEAM program, in terms of the magnet grants in the Kearney cluster, I mean, I hope, and it's been said, but I just really hope that the whole point is we have the grant and then it will continue on once the grant is gone, because I've seen so many magnet schools where we have this magnet program and we're paying for this magnet coordinator who sometimes to me, I'm not sure exactly, it looks like the PR person for the school, and then the magnet grant goes away and they say we no longer have a magnet. That shouldn't be the case. It should be so interwoven into what's going on. The grant just gets it started and then it continues on from there. And then one question, in terms of Dr. Martell, if you could just explain a little more to the group about the difference between the immersion programs and the dual language programs, because sometimes they get spoken of as if they're the same thing.
Well, in my work with the Office of Language Acquisition over the last couple years, we're actually kind of trying to redefine when we say dual language immersion programs, what exactly does that mean? Because we have biliteracy programs, we were kind of lumping them all under one umbrella. And at least with my work with the Language Academy recently, we realized that we really have to define these, at least separate two. At least the school-wide immersion programs, the whole school is immersed in creating a culture that is focused around language development. These students, by the time they're in 8th grade, they're taking the AP language courses, scoring 4s and 5s. We don't see that quite yet happening when we start those within a cluster, where we start at an elementary school. As Gage started several years ago, I think they're going to be up to 4th grade next year, and then 5th, and then that school will move into, the students will articulate to Persian, and there'll be 2 courses that students will be required at middle school to take to continue on with that language immersion development. But we see a distinction between these 2 programs, and we're really moving towards Language Academy and Longfellow being the models for schools in clusters that want to start programs to look towards the Language Academy and Longfellow as models for instruction and creating cultures. It's not to say you can't create those cultures in our clusters, but when it's school-wide, it's pretty much immersed into Longfellow and Language Academy.
So when you're saying school-wide, well, obviously that's with Language Academy and Longfellow, but, and you talked about it moving up in the grades and gradually getting to there, but are the dual language schools not all of the students in
Correct.
kindergarten or 1st grade the same way that they are at Language
Yes.
Academy, where they're starting off in the target language and then gradually bringing English into it, as opposed
it's
to
a
the,
strand.
pardon?
It's a strand.
Strand?
So in a cluster, it's you may have 4 kindergarten classrooms at Field. 2 of them are for Spanish immersion and 2 are English. So
Okay.
neighborhood schools, neighborhood students can choose to take the Spanish immersion pathway, or they can take the English-only pathway.
Okay, because I understand now. I mean, when you're talking about immersion versus using the term immersion and dual language, it sounds like it's a little different approach to but they're both immersion programs. It's just that it's school-wide versus not school-wide. But for that particular cohort, it is an immersion program.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Thank you.
Dr. McQuarrie?
Thank you. This goal number 5 to me is one that shows how complex of a job we really have in so many ways. Children, parents initially become engaged in schools because of a child's in a particular classroom and they're interested in a single teacher and in that particular child. And then eventually, as they learn and become more engaged and active, they become connected with other classrooms at that same grade level, and then they become interested in the school, and then they expand up and become interested in the middle school and then the high school. So this particular component, and what we're talking about here, is parent engagement. And how do we involve parents in this highly complex structure of moving from not only just my child or their child, but all children, and then addressing the complexity and the issues that are so many. And I think this goal addresses every one of those. What we want our parents to be involved and understand, we want to move them, as I heard, from being learners to leaders. And as they begin to this process of involving themselves in their individual child's education, they then are learning it as the bigger picture, increased complexity, and not only within that grade, within that school, but within that cluster. And as I've been in other clusters and attended meetings, I can see the various complexities, the various groups coming together to see that difference. In order to have a a functioning cluster, we need that vertical articulation that's been growing and developing. And we have been identifying these pathways. And the pathways are not just created because they're good ideas. They came out of communicating and working with and having that authentic conversation with the parents in that community. We talked about music at Claremont. There's not a demand at a certain level, and what do we do? It's to either create that demand or educate parents or create the pathway. Is it a pathway issue? Is it a parent issue? Is it a student issue? Is it a neighborhood issue? So in order to be able to have meet our LCAP goal number 5, it's so important that we have this authentic communication, meaningful involvement that shows respect for families and parents and communities. It talks about real and relevance, a curriculum that is focused and purposeful, opportunities for parents not only be engaged but also to be empowered. In order to address all those, it seems like with the complexity we have, we really need a differentiated approach. And I'm thinking that's where we're tending to go with our clusters coming together to be able to identify the particular interests and needs in one cluster or group as compared to another. And where I see issues and concerns within the district, it's where a particular group doesn't feel that they've been respected, that they've been heard, and their needs have been identified. And I'm thinking through maybe greater differentiation as we move forward, recognizing those many, many differences that we have with many students coming from and parents from so many different parts of the world that are showing up here in San Diego. And we have this complex obligation and responsibility, and it's really, truly a challenge and an honor to be able to pull this community together through our schools. And as our students and communities learn to work together, this becomes a friendlier, warmer city, a warmer area, and we have an opportunity for a global impact nationally. Opportunity for an impact nationally as well as globally. And I think San Diego is so uniquely positioned to make a significant difference in this country and in the world. And I think this goal is just very, very important and very, very critical. And I recognize the complexity of it and want to acknowledge you for the effort that you're making to make it happen. I have a question. What is our effort to differentiate the parent and community engagement across our district?
In terms of differentiation, I believe that one of those vehicles will be through our student-centered coaching cycles, engaging our families through that approach in ensuring that, one, we are meeting the needs of our families within the context of their own child's education and building a larger community within that. And then two, this year we spent a lot of time organizing and doing work in response to community needs. So when a community came to the department and asked for support or resources as it pertained to a particular item or issue, we met with families or parents or community to be able to support them in getting those resources or information to them. So one prime example would be around the work that we lifted and supported for our undocumented families. That started with one request, which was from San Diego High School, and that then launched a larger interest from other communities. We lifted over 16 of those community forums, reaching over 2,000 parents who were in need of that information. And that all happened within a 2-month window. So we are constantly looking to listen to the community and be responsive to the needs. So yeah, thank you.
Just one quick comment. That's hopefully the purpose of the survey, too. You're collecting data, and you use the data to help you to meet various needs out there. I mean, it's just not a point of collecting data just to have data. Yes, it's...
So to that point, yes, the data from the parent surveys will be utilized as an entry point for schools to be able to create individualized family engagement action plans next year, which will be their individual school goals to increase parental engagement from an authentic space that will hopefully build stronger communities and relationships.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board?
just want
Dr.
to
McCoy.
finish my train of thought.
Sure.
Then, as we're talking about choice, and we're talking about charters, we're talking about our neighborhood schools, and we can increase engagement and involvement. We can increase our numbers. We can increase, as we increase our ability and to address the needs of our parents in our local communities. Then we increase their trust, as well as their involvement, as well as their inclination to enroll. Once enrolled, and they tend to stay as long as they feel that their needs are being met. So I think it's to our advantage to continue the effort and to make the differences that we can within our individual neighborhoods.
Thank you. I just want to state the obvious that in talking about parent engagement and involvement, you know, we have the FACE department and the central office and all the work that you're doing in the schools. And we've talked about principals. A lot of principals have principal coffees and monthly parent meetings and things like that. But we also have to recognize and acknowledge the fact that the individual in our school district that has the most communication with parents is the teachers. And to the extent that the teachers are the ones developing and fostering positive relationship with parents, that's, I think, the key to having parents to continue to have their children in our schools and to be able to listen to the parents and the needs that we need to meet for the betterment of their child. It also, the other individuals in the front office, the classified staff, the custodian, the groundskeeper, that as the parent is walking to the school to pick up or drop off or to attend a concert or an assembly or something like that, there are all those other members of our school district team that are the face of our district. And does that face greet them with a warm smile and a hello? How are you doing? Can I help you? Can I help you find somebody? And that's, I think, a really, really important part of the conversation. And I know that that's very high on FACE's priority list, is to make sure that we're supporting all the classified and teaching staff in all of our schools that are actually in the trenches every day, building that capacity to work with parents and things like that. I definitely want to appreciate my fellow trustees who had mentioned, I believe it was John Evans, talked about a volunteer system and how do we encourage and facilitate getting more volunteers into the schools. And this speaks to the need for TB testing at various clusters, because one of the biggest hurdles for parents or community members to get involved is they have to come down to the central office and get a TB test, or they have to go to a doctor and get a TB test, and that's very challenging and difficult. And it's been brought up a couple of times over the last year or 2 years that we ought to consider or look at the beginning of the school year, not constantly every day, but at the beginning of the school year, having volunteer sign-up periods where people at each cluster could have a TB test administration, a couple of day block, and then a couple of days to read the TB test. Something like that that would make it much easier, because not all of our parents and community members have the ability to go to a doctor. They don't have transportation, but maybe they could get to a cluster school in their neighborhood. Do you want to speak to that?
So we've been working very closely with the San Diego Council PTA, Barbara Flannery and Linda Sintz as community partners to already, and internally with our nursing and wellness department to address that, and creating a screening process where our internal staff can support parent involvement and the TB screening at the school site.
Wow.
And so that will be in an updated circular launching at the beginning of this year, upcoming year.
Sweet, thank you. I would also like to briefly just thank Julia Martell and everybody in the offices of language acquisition for your report on language immersion, finding the value in successful programs like the Language Academy and Longfellow as a K-8 model, and also expanding dual immersion into a lot of our neighborhood schools. And the value with dual immersion is what we realized at Gage Elementary School, which was, a very, very under-enrolled school for many years. And so then we implemented a dual immersion program where you could, if you lived in the neighborhood and you wanted your child to go to the local neighborhood school, you could. But we also had an opportunity to have Spanish immersion, classes. And so I believe that you really articulated that very well, that if you have 4 classes, 2 could be English regular, and then 2 could be Spanish immersion. And you know, the nuance there is not lost on me. I really appreciate that, you guys talking about that. And then with the anti-bullying support programs and things like that, to what extent are we pushing out that link to report bullying to parents in an email to let them know to please report bullying incidents so we can improve the safety of our schools? Because I've heard from a wide number of parents that they didn't even know anything about it, and we just say, oh, it's on the website. Oh, it's on the website. Well, but parents don't necessarily know that, and I believe that there's value in making sure that we are not under-reporting our challenges, because we need to embrace them so that we can make them better and solve those problems. Also, it's my understanding that through the anti-bullying support programs that there was I believe this was last year, a discussion about informational posters encouraging students to report bullying by having a poster in every classroom, and there was funding, I believe, identified for that a year or 2 ago, and I was wondering, where are we with that?
So when it comes to the anti-bullying support work we will be facilitating, it will be living in the, part of that work will live under the Office of Youth and Family Advocacy. So the monitoring of the data will also occur through that. When it comes to the informational posters, I'm going to have to say that I am unaware of and have no information to share on
Sophia's going to
that.
be presenting next. She can
Right,
address
I
that.
understand. But in terms of emailing the bullying survey to parents, because a lot of parents, I get calls from parents from time to time, oh, my child's being bullied, I talked to the principal, nothing's happening, blah, blah, blah. And so then I say, well, did you go online and report it? And they said they had no idea that that was available. So to what extent are we emailing parents and letting them know that there is this bullying reporting online link, and to please, let us know if you feel that your child isn't safe?
To date, we have this department has not launched any of the anti-bullying work. So we plan to lift that work up coming
Okay.
next year, and that's definitely, I believe, something that's within our capacity to be able to do.
Okay.
It lives within the online platform as well as a
Right.
hotline.
But I think today, Dr. Weiderspain pointed it out, that when it's just on the website, we may get 400 responses, but when we actively push it out, we might get 32,000. And so I think that there's value in making sure that we're making it very clear and articulating to parents that we need to know when their child is being bullied or not feeling safe, so that we could address it and fix it and make their school safer. All right, thank you very
Definitely.
much.
Thank you.
I know our
Oh, one-
communications team is listening to that as well.
Okay, great. One last thing about the Kearney Cluster STEAM grant. What was the only high school that doesn't have music? Kearney. So. No, I was referring to the director of VAPA. I believe that. Yeah, I've been talking about it for years, and would appreciate and welcome a plan from VAPA and the superintendent to bring music to Kearney, since it's not a STEM grant, it's a STEAM grant. All right, so on that
Put
note.
the A in STEM,
Yes.
and let's get back on track with
On
goal
that
4.
note, we are, just a time check, we are about 30 minutes behind schedule. So if we could just.
Thank you to the team that just presented on goal 5.
Yes, thank you very much. Great job. We are, time check, we are about 32 minutes behind schedule. So we all have the PowerPoint with the information on them. So I would just encourage trustees and the members of the community to read, and if we could get the global overview from the presenters and not necessarily just reading all the PowerPoint slides, that may help us to get back on time. And so here we go.
So
LCAP
we'll
goal
begin with
number
Crown
4.
Point Elementary School Principal Muriel Bartolini is going to come up and present goal 4, positive school environment, climate, and culture as an example. And remember that this goal is focused on, besides the positive school climate, equity at the core and support for the whole child. And we'll hear from our principal now, talking about how this work is being accomplished at her school at Crown Point Elementary School.
Is my PowerPoint up there?
And you have the clicker right there for the PowerPoint slide. Yes.
I'm not a PowerPoint person. I'm not a speech person. I'm an in-the-moment person. And listening to all of this right now, I'm really in the moment of my next, my goal. So do I push the first top button? So climate, and I wanted to address a little bit about volunteers because that helps make climate. When I first went to Crown Point, teachers would say that there aren't a lot of volunteers here. And I said, well, it all depends on what you call a volunteer. So I would watch the school very closely, and I would see all kinds of parents on our campus. And they were volunteering in many different ways that you normally don't think about. I always tell my parents, don't tell me what else you can do because I'll have you do it. So we have parents that are musicians. They come into school and they practice on our instruments to keep their skills going. What button do I push?
The side button to the right.
Okay. So we do have a lot of parents on our campus that do more than just volunteer or come for parties or field trips. They're always on our campus daily and part of the school in everything that we do. So what does this goal mean for our school? Well, Crown Point, as many of you know, has been a school that people talked about for years as a school that was going to close. So we want to stop that conversation now. All of us agree at Crown Point we're not going to talk about that anymore because now we are a school that is thriving. And how we made that happen is, first of all, we went to the children and we wanted to hear from children what is it that they wanted for their school. So the children's voice is very, 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 very much a part of our school. Our children are involved in many levels of our school in creating the environment for bringing into the class the things that they want to learn about, and knowing that the adults on our campus are there for them, and any adult on the campus is there for them, and their voice is very important. They know that their principal believes in them, and that I will stop anything to talk to them and listen to them and make some action happen after they talk to me. So these are some bulleted points, but I basically kind of covered that in what I just said, but I wanted to go back to where some people were saying about Gary Patel and resources that we have in the district. I use every resource that we have in our district to make things happen. Gary Patel has been on my campus playing basketball with kids. Drew Rollins has been out there and he has sat with me and sat in classrooms. I've had all the PPO guys. They come out to my school. I take them to classrooms. I have introduced them to children and talk to them so they know what kind of children are at the school. So we talked many, many times about the vision for this school, and we created it together. If it weren't for the PPO people, for Gary Patel, for Drew Rollins, for all of those guys that come out and do maintenance, Crown Point wouldn't be what it is today because they saw the vision that I saw, and together we made it. So it couldn't happen without them. And there are so many resources in our district to help make schools that very strong community school. We just need to know who to go to, what to say, and help them become part of the vision. So I've just been diagnosed with cataracts in both eyes, so I can't see a thing.
Good, then you can't read your slides.
Good. So I'll just talk from the heart then. So Crown Point is a school of heart. We are now just under 400 children, and the school has been flipped. The first time I went to this school, I passed it up. I didn't even know it was in the community. I drove right by it. So I said, uh-oh, the school has to talk to this community. So started putting things into play to make the school talk to the community. We put murals up. We put beautiful pictures up. We put colorful things up. We saw music everywhere. And everybody started to get really interested in, hey, what's going on here? And coming in, people come in daily just to say, what is this school all about? So now we have people from Canada that are partners with us that are going to be meeting with us every year to work with our students. He works for the BBC, and he's a published musician. He's going to be working with our students writing songs and publishing. We have a young man at our school right now who just happened to walk on our campus because of what it looked like and how he felt when he came by it. And he is attending Juilliard, and now he's working with our students in our school, and he's talking about his journey and how he got there. And he's going to be vacationing next to us every year, and he wants to be part of our school. We have an older woman who is a blues and jazz, and she said she would walk past the school and she felt something coming out from inside the school. And she says every time she felt that, her heart fluttered. So she said, I knew I had to come in. So she came in, and now she's ours. So now she's going to be part of our school and helping our students learn jazz in various ways and history. So it takes a pretty picture to present a pretty place. And we have a very pretty picture for Crown Point Junior Music Academy. We had to have more happening at that school to say that it was an academy than just what was there. It had to be lifted to another level. The school is very much lifted to another level because of all the heart that the children and the staff have put into it and the resources I received from the district. It's beautiful level. But now we're looking at establishing the academy level, hopefully from the other resources in our district. So music is everywhere. The vision is everywhere. In the bathroom, in the office, in the hallways, in the auditorium, in the cafeteria. There's no missing who we are, the heart of our school, through the beat of music. And our students talk it, our students sing it, our students do it all day long. And not all students come to Crown Point because of the music program. But once they get there, they are part of the program because there's nowhere else they can go because it's everything that we do. And then they find out, hey, I have something inside of me that I just found out about because I'm here at Crown Point and having that ability to experience who I am in a more comfortable and kid-centered environment. So there's a lot to go for, all the way from the nursing to the cafeteria to the core of the child. I don't know how other way to kind of express about the core of the child. It's so very present every day in our school. So in order to make that happen, you really have to be a listener and you really have to be an observer. And so that's how Crown Point got to the point of a positive environment, very strong culture, and the core of the child because everything is listened to from parent to child, and something is taken from that and created at the school, if that makes sense to anybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariel, for the beautiful description of your school and the work that you've been leading there to change the climate and culture of Crown Point. I appreciate it very much. I'd like to invite up a dynamite team right now. Please come up to join us for the presentation, and you'll see here what it takes to create a positive school environment. Is you just heard a story from a principal, what happens at the school site and how district supports are essential, and then the close listening to the students at the school. But what you have here is a beautiful team, our comprehensive school guidance counseling program. We will have Franny Del Carmen talk about that, and school counseling being integrated and really being about focused on the whole child and every child needing a champion. Felicia Singleton Daniels will speak about our restorative practices, and Jennifer Cornell about our reconnection efforts, and Sophia Arredondo about our LGBTQIA efforts, and Stan about family and youth advocacy. And what you see here, I'm going to continue. Student health and wellness, Michelle Bell, of course, will talk about our wellness initiatives and our wellness centers. And sometimes we say teamwork makes the dream work, and what you see here is an incredible team that's the sometimes invisible behind the work, lifting up. We talk about hearts and minds and the hearts of students being engaged, and that the whole child is being supported in ways that are sometimes visible and sometimes invisible. And the way they make things happen across this whole system is absolutely phenomenal. So we get to actually see really concretely what you do as a whole team, integrating and supporting the work of our district to create the positive school environment, climate, and culture that we need for our students. So we'll start with, I believe Franny is starting. No, Felicia. Okay, I'll let you know which order you're going in.
And just a time check, we have 30 minutes.
And I should have said Franny and Noemi together are presenting on counseling and the integrated support for our vision and our plan for the counseling effort, Every Child Needing a Champion.
Thank you very much. So in the interest of time, I was going to present the context about Goal 4, but really what sums it up is Maya Angelou's quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And really the context behind the Goal 4 action team, as we've named ourselves, is to really integrate curriculum and instruction along with the social and emotional well-being of our children, so that norms and values can be created and the human connection can indeed be honored. This team has worked together to implement work that is well orchestrated, where we can provide support services that support the initiatives of Goal 4. And our goals are to increase student achievement, improve student attendance, improve school climate, and improve family and community engagement, leveraging district resources across all disciplines. And what we've noticed is that while all of our support may look different depending on our department, the common thread that binds is our commitment to serving and supporting the children and the families and the staff members of San Diego Unified School District. And today I just want to share a little bit about what restorative practices is. And it is a framework that knits a school community together with shared ideologies, belief systems, assumptions, expectations, attitudes, and norms that create futures for all of our children. And the underlying premise of restorative practices is that people are happier when you're doing things with them rather than to them or for them. So in a tiered model with restorative practices, that bottom part of the tier is where we would like to put school-wide strategies that develop healthy relationships, where guidelines and expectations are shared, and students and staff can develop such skills as better communication and empathy. In tier 2 of that triangle is where, in a restorative framework, we will manage and maintain relationships by really unpacking any type of harm and giving voice to all members of a school community, including families and parents. And in tier 3, on our model, it's a very small part of the triangle, and that's because when there is trust built and when relationships are authentic, we see that incidents do go down. But there are times when we will need to provide intensive supports and services and wrap around that child or whoever was harmed, and that lives in the tier 3, the top tier of that triangle. I'm very thrilled to say that starting in 2017-18, we are going to have the Department of Restorative Practices. And while this work has been piloted in a very small percentage of our schools, it is our goal when we get the team in place is to really launch an awareness campaign. We think it's very important to really share with the community at large, so staff, district level leadership, board members, parents, community, and staff, really what does restorative practices mean. We also believe that it's very important that we have the message concrete and that we're all speaking the same language. So we include bus drivers, and we include food services, and we include everyone who touches the life of a child or a parent. And that way our schools become what students feel like they own, or parents feel like they're a part of the ownership or the fabric of that campus. We also would like to continue with professional development, and we understand that training is not the answer, but it's a part of the answer, where you really build that knowledge so that you can build a model that is something that you can take to scale at some point. Also, I'm very excited to say that we will be partnering with the Institute of Public Health from San Diego State so that we can start to dive into data. We know that school culture and climate feels good when we see it or when we feel it, but we know that how you feel is not enough to move work along. We really need to be able to look at data, inform what we're doing right, rework what we're not doing right so that we can get it right for our kids and families. And now I'm going to pass it along to our counseling team.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Noemi Villegas, and me and Franny are going to be presenting some of the work that we've been doing on counseling services and how we're re-envisioning the counseling services in our districts. So every child needs a champion. I think we can all agree to that today. Even with the conversations that we've had today, really what we want is for all of us to take ownership of students, and when we're thinking about counseling services, really create a positive school culture and positive school climate where students feel embraced by their schools, where we feel that every single person in the campus cares about that family and that child, and therefore we have guided all of our efforts through the counseling services that we provide for our kiddos, but also all these wonderful professionals that you see here. So our goal is to integrate the services that we provide for our students, and we feel that school counselors need to collaborate, continue the collaboration with administrators, teachers, our classified colleagues, also our certificated colleagues, to be able to support the students in building a positive experience when they walk into school.
As we continue through our integrated multi-tier systems of support, we begin the development of our comprehensive school counseling and guidance programs that are really designed to help our students in student achievement and our integrated services. We focus first on student data, and we then focus on how we can break down our domains in terms of counseling. Counseling supports in the areas of academic, career, and personal social development that we'll cover shortly. And again, there is a key component that we've heard here today, and that's the importance of collaborations with not only our school counselors, our staff, but also our parents and community partners. So we need to leverage the resources that we have in order to support all of our students and really look at our services K-12 as we're mapping out some of the supports we have for our students. And first and foremost, the number one thing our counselors also provide is that equity and access for opportunities that they have across all of their K-12 approaches. One of the key things in the development of our integrated multi-tier systems of support is the triangle. So as you can see in the diagram, this is our half triangle, and you can see our tier 1 focuses on core supports that are provided for all students. So what is it that all students need to have via K-12? Then we have supplemental supports, is what is the integrated services that our students need for some of our students. And then we obviously have our tier 3, which is our individualized support. What is it that some of our few students need, as Felicia mentioned earlier? And again, the key component for us for next year will be really in strategizing our professional learning communities with our counselors and what we need to coach and train on to build capacity at the site level as well as for us. And again, we'll continue to look into our communities and how we can support and leverage the resources that we have. We have easily over 30 partners, and we have more willing to come on board, but we again are looking at how we can support these services and vertically align them K-12.
So an example of those initiatives we have, we're very happy to report to you some of the work that we've been doing with the Crafter pilot program in elementary services. So what we're trying there is to build a collective vision of how we do services for our students in the pilot program in elementary schools, but primarily working on what is working for and with students. What is that strength that we need to maximize and highlight so that we can work from that place of empowerment? So our colleagues in elementary counseling services, our elementary counselors have been amazing at becoming fabric of the school. So they're building relationships. They're helping their colleagues understand different pieces of the student, not only from the counseling perspective, but also the social and emotional learning of the student, and looking at the data. The question became a few minutes ago about the data piece, but looking at integrated counseling services that are data-driven, that we're collecting data to guide our efforts in counseling in all 3 domains. So not only social emotional development, which typically is looked at in elementary schools, but also looking at the academic performance of students and how we leverage the resources that we do have and partnerships with teachers and other colleagues at the school site to support the development of goals for our students. Next year, we're gonna be working more in collaboration with FACE for the family and community engagement, because we know that, especially in elementary schools, the student is part of the unit of the family. So we wanna pay attention, a lot of attention to those efforts and to bring families within the counseling services. Okay, the next slide, we are very excited to show you, and we know that you're tired, but this is super exciting. So we thought, okay, so we want to bring services K-12 for our colleagues, and we want to frame the conversations of counseling. So we were thinking about branding, our branding message. And this is what you will hear from counseling services within the next 5 to 10 years. So it's pretty exciting work. So our model or our mantra in counseling services is we want to unlock the genius one strength at a time. We want to maximize student growth with every interaction. Every interaction matters. So that pretty much sums up our counseling program because we want people to feel empowered to do what they can within a complicated system such as ours. So we want to own our students' strengths and we want to make sure that every interaction matters. So looking at the academic success, we're creating a comprehensive model for school counseling services in collaboration with our colleagues. We are collaborating with other states, and we are also collaborating within districts in California and with our colleagues here in San Diego and different stakeholders. And looking at the social emotional learning piece, really guiding our work through trauma-informed care, but not only stopping on trauma, but building on resilience. So what else can we do to enhance the strengths of our students?
And last but not least, I think the most critical component here is always looking at the student beyond us, the college, career, and community readiness. We've heard that a lot today. That's a really critical view for us and for us to be able to see our students as a holistic approach. This really is how are we supporting our students for their post-secondary goals, and what does that mean in the kindergarten level all the way through senior year. So we're really excited, and like we said again, for us it is imperative that we work to unlock the genius one strength at a time and maximize students' growth with every single interaction and working alongside our partners. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Office of Reconnection.
Thank you. Like Franny said, I'm from the Office of Reconnection, and today I'm here to discuss the mission and the focus of our office, and that is to attract, retain, and capture students in San Diego Unified. And that work will be accomplished this year through calibrating our resources, like everyone talked about here today, breaking down those silos and working together, and disaggregating our data and matching student needs to district and community supports. Our first focus, attracting students. We're building our team of student equity ambassadors who are district students who define success, identify obstacles, and develop solutions for issues of interest at their sites, in their district, and their communities. We're providing innovative options through the expansion of the innovation centers, 2 of which will be located at Lincoln and San Diego High School next year. We're also using online learning opportunities to supplement and enrich courses that are already in place. We're initiating partial credit recovery for at-risk youth who are often off track to graduate due to multiple school site transitions. And we'll be engaging our families by demystifying enrollment options. We're going to introduce the concept of holding comprehensive interviews when students are disenrolling or wanting to disenroll from schools and leave our districts. And at these meetings, we'll be sharing with them this marketing tool that we've been developing this year, which describes alternative and atypical options that students might be interested in. Our second focus, retaining students, supports through a tiered system, as you see in front of us. Tier 1 is universal supports. Will be trauma-informed care training and giving professional development to school sites. And this will be educating sites on what trauma-informed care practices are, and then how we can build these strategies into already existing site plans. We'll be training schools on laws and entitlements for at-risk youth, those of which support the stability and continuity of highly mobile children within our district. And we'll be providing basic needs for students who are at risk, as well as opening up a food pantry at Crawford and partnering with local community college to look at best practices for doing that. We'll also be, Tier 1 support for students is also online and blending learning opportunities like we looked at in the first slide. Our Tier 2 supports are calibrated resources, so we'll be using an early warning system, case management monitoring, which is a data monitoring tool that uses at-risk indicators. Those indicators are all shared domains with district departments and community organizations. And with those shared domains, we'll be doing a lot of cross-departmental and community coordination to link our student needs with our supports. Our Tier 3 interventions are intense individual interventions. This will be supported through one-on-one monitoring with What Works Clearinghouse model, which is a check and connect curriculum. We'll be also looking into proactive placements, which are district alternative and atypical placements for students who aren't succeeding in our comprehensive high schools. And then we'll be linking our community and agency linkages to students who need those supports to re-enroll in school or stay in school. And our third and final focus is capturing disconnected students, and this will center around the nearly 12,490 opportunity youth aged 16 through 24 who are neither in school or employed. And these youth make up approximately 7.2% of that age range. And we know that there are 5 community service providers per these 100 out-of-school youth. So next year, we'll really be working on capitalizing with those organizations that support these youth, building and strengthening those relationships to reconnect youth to school and employment in a targeted manner, and recruit and, again, match those needs of our youth to the supports both in district and out of district. And with that, I'm moving on to Sophia from LGBTQIA.
Thank you. I wish I would have brought some water, so excuse me if the voice goes. This is an effort to highlight our program's work that seeks to increase positive school culture and environment and support for the whole child. This slide in particular reflects a multi-tiered system of support. Maybe for time's sake, I won't go over each piece. But what I will do is let you know that our work is an effort to improve student achievement, attendance, and positive school climate where LGBTQIA students with all of their layered identities can thrive. Our approach promotes educational and leadership opportunities along with emotional support. So the next slide is an effort to highlight the directed piece of the multi-tiered system of support. This approach includes cultivating leaders through the framework of empowerment, connected to fostering positive and healthy school climates. We are dedicated to expanding learning beyond the classroom and building student identity and engagement. So in the fall, what you see up here is that in the fall we'll have 2 days of GSA days. So switching from the Safe Schools model to really focusing on the student leadership piece with GSAs. And for those 2 days, we will invite 18 middle and high schools to participate. They will receive workshops on GSA building, student rights and advocacy, so developing your purpose, knowing what students' rights are, and how to advocate in a way that is constructive and so that we can center the student's voice. They'll also get LGBTQIA social history, because if they don't know where they come from, they don't know where they're going. And an introduction then to restorative circles as a means to address different issues around bullying and safety. In the spring then, we will bring 3 to 4 leadership students that reflect the leadership of their GSA, and they will come and they will share out what the experience of the GSA day was. But one piece that I forgot to mention from the GSA days, they will also be tasked with an action that fits the school climate from which they're coming from, and something tangible that they can, if they can see that they can make change, then they will continue to remain invested not only on a school campus level, but with instruction, right? When they start to see the impact that they make. So the summit will be an opportunity to share out about those action steps. Maybe the action step will be in the stage of a continuum, right? Because maybe they've taken on something big, or maybe they've taken on something that's tangible that they'll be able to report out that they achieved the goal. Through the GSA Collaborative, we'll continue to build the work that the Collaborative does, which invites leadership from the GSAs to meet monthly, to team build, to share out about school climate, to build skills and leadership. But more importantly, they will also have an opportunity to come to our LGBTQI Advisory Committee meeting that meets bi-monthly, and they will share out about the work that they're doing through the Collaborative. So that we keep student-centered voices, we keep students' voices at the center, excuse me. The next slide. First, before I start with this slide, I really want to say how honored I am to be part of this amazing team of leaders who are devoted to keeping students at the center and working from an integrated approach that is unapologetically and boldly collaborative. We will continue, I like that unapologetically word. We will continue to do interdepartmental collaboration, but through an LGBTQI lens. So we will do mutual strengthening of staff, learning, and capacity. So what does that mean? With counseling and guidance, our program's effort will be to foster that champion for every child, to build student agency and empowerment. Our program will participate in professional learning and capacity building of counselors through professional development, best practices, and resource referrals. When it comes to student leadership and restorative practices, we will include the participation or encourage the participation of LGBTQIA students and issues specifically related to their experiences on campuses. With special education, an LGBTQIA program will train special ed staff and work collaboratively to develop best practices and support for students and families. And with reconnection, we will specifically work to create a trauma-informed perspective from the LGBTQIA lens, because sometimes our experiences with trauma can be very different than the mainstream population. LGBTQI education and advocacy will collaborate with children, youth, and transition to create a professional development training focused on identifying and supporting LGBTQI homeless and foster youth in San Diego Unified School District, because unfortunately our youth overrepresent foster youth and homeless youth. I'll go ahead and skip CSEC just for time's sake, and because I really want to focus on nursing and wellness as I pass it off to Michelle Bell. But we will be working closely with the wellness the wellness center, their staff. We've already done their training, their 101 training, but we will continue to bolster their skills. We will help design workshops and discussion groups for students hosted by our staff, by the wellness staff, and with community-based organizations. So things might include healthy relationships or life skills workshops, or exploring gender and masculinity and femininity, that kind of thing. And then lastly, this presentation doesn't necessarily focus on the parent piece, but I feel like that's been a theme throughout the day, and I do want to say that we look forward to, we've already started the work with FACE, but we look forward to being under the leadership of Stan Anjan and working on that parent piece. For parents of LGBTQIA youth and for parents who are LGBTQIA, the nuances are a bit different in the fact that we need to work on the visibility piece, letting our students know and letting our parents know that this program exists. It's a huge statement to parents and to the community that this program exists, that it will continue to thrive, and that it has parents and students at the center. Thank you.
So as the overseer of nursing and wellness and the superintendent's designee for wellness, I will here today to talk about policy implementation and the wellness centers for 2017-18. So when we look at policy implementation, we'll be working on policy updates for this year. The Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, the final rule has come out, and we will be looking at what the USDA guidelines are around the wellness policy, making sure to include those strengths that they suggest and increase transparency. Such things as food marketing, healthy celebrations, making sure we have broad participation in our district and school site level councils, and making sure that we do public updates and have an evaluation plan as we move forward with our work. We will continue to engage more with staff. We have developed a staff wellness subcommittee this year, which we will continue to grow into next year. We have started talking about having a youth advocacy council, and then looking at our parent reps and our district site reps as we move into the work of 17-18. Making sure that we have leadership support from the top down is a huge priority, from the board to the superintendent to all of her team members. The reason for this is that we want to make sure that the work that we're doing is a culture shift within the district. We have to see that the wellness of all people in this district, whether they're employees, whether they're parents, whether they're students, whether they're our community partners or people that just live in our school community boundaries, that we're looking at the overall wellness of the folks that we deal with. and making sure that we have that connectedness to the work, and that we want it, all of us on the panel want it to become the district's new norm, is making sure that we do truly have the center of students at our core and that we're focused on that. Because really their academic achievement, that's really what it's all about for them, is that a social, emotional achievement as well as academic achievement. Wellness centers, we're going to be implementing them in this fall. The centers that will be opening in our core high schools, our priority, thank you, high schools. And then the care coordination and technology, we're working with 211 on having a care coordination system so that we can actually see all the services that our families are receiving throughout the county, and we're not duplicating the work or the efforts that our partners are doing. So we'll have a system to be able to look at and to enter what services we as a school district are also providing, and so that there's no gap in what it is that's there. We've already talked about the interdepartmental collaboration that'll continue, and then the community stakeholder engagement between Stan's office and my office and the work that we're doing within the wellness centers, that piece will continue as well. The priorities of the wellness centers, the reason we chose the wellness centers to be at the high school level is because we want to start intervening with our kids at a much earlier age. We want to make sure that our elementary and middle school families, that they stay in that community and they go to their high school that's in their community. So we felt that if we put wellness centers, a space and a place where families can come and receive services based on whatever that school community has issue with, then we can start to address the needs much earlier and keep those families where they actually belong, which is in their own home neighborhoods. We have a lot of partnerships within my department, but within everybody's department here that works with community members and stakeholders, and we want to continue to build upon that relationship. I can tell you from a nurse of almost 30 years, there's nothing worse than making a referral for a family over and over and over again, and the family doesn't get the services that they need because of whatever the barrier is. So if we can create a place in our high schools where families can come in and get those services, and we have wellness center coordinators that are the bridge to the community partner, to the parents, and to the school, then we are going to save ourselves a lot of effort and time. Families are going to get those immediate needs met, and now we have somebody who's responsible for making sure that our kids don't fall through the cracks. Honestly, I'm very passionate about the wellness centers, but it's because of the years of frustrations that families haven't really gotten the needs that they have wanted because of whatever the limitations are. So I'm very proud of this work and the work of my team members. As we continue to do this work, it really has to come from a positive centered action place. We have to continue to make sure that we all put the students first in the work that we're doing, and I know among my colleagues that is never going to be an issue. We definitely make our decisions based on what the actual needs of students are. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Stan and have him tell us how he's going to tie it all together from family and community engagement to the efforts that our team here is doing.
Okay, Stan, you have -1 minute.
He's been warned.
I have the luxury of pushing Naomi's statement to that this is the most exciting 30 seconds of the night. And that is that the Family and Community Engagement team under the Office of Youth and Family Advocacy will work in an integrated internal perspective to support the work happening inside, but be the conduit to the external, engaging all of our community partners, parents, and families in a true understanding of the supports and services that we provide, as well as understanding of what the needs are from the community through conversations, data collection, and meaningful engagement so that we are having a balanced approach to supporting students.
Drop the mic.
Thank you very much. Trustees, questions or comments?